Act 5 begins the end of the resolution of Macbeth. So, we're going to start with a review of the plot diagram, and then we're going to move through the entirety of Act 5. Just a quick note about Act 5, all of the scenes are very short, so the rapidity of everything seems to seem a little bit strange, but you have to think of Act 5 like your action movie, where scenes get shorter towards the end because more action is occurring. So let's begin. First off, we're presented with our plot diagram again. Alright, this is something you need to know. Alright. So, remember our plot diagram begins with the exposition. Here, there should be a dotted line going up. And that dotted line to us indicates the inciting incident. Now, both the exposition and the inciting incident are associated with Act 1. The exposition, remember, introduces the characters and the setting, and the inciting incident is the turning point of our story. The line going up, sometimes known as the rising action, what we refer to it as the complication, something to improve our vocabulary with. The complication. And these are the events leading to the climax. The climax is indicated at the top, and it is the highest point of action. The complication is associated with Act 2, and the complication is associated with Act 3. The line going down, sometimes known as the falling action, we refer to as the denouement or the denouement. Notice its spelling, D-E-N-O-U-E-M-E-N-T. That's important to know how to spell. It's a good word. Alright, and it's the events leading to the resolution. And of course, the last part is the resolution. And the resolution are the concluding events in the story. So again, the exposition associated with Act 1. The inciting incident associated with the end of Act 1. The complication associated with Act 2. The climax associated with Act 3. The denouement associated with Act 4. And the resolution, Act 5. So Act 5, Scene 1, begins with a doctor and a gentlewoman. A gentlewoman is like an aristocratic woman who waits on the queen, would set her baths, would get her dress, and a doctor is a doctor, a physician. And so they're speaking, and the doctor's reporting some unusual behavior, as is the gentlewoman. If you have your text, on line 3 of Act 5, Scene 1, the gentlewoman says, "Since His Majesty went into the field, into the battlefield, I have seen her, Lady Macbeth, rise from her bed, throw her nightgown upon her, unlock her closet, take forth paper, fold it, write upon it, read it, afterwards seal it, and again return to bed. Yet all this while in a most fast sleep." So in this scene, the gentlewoman is indicating that Lady Macbeth has been sleepwalking and has been performing some strange behavior while she's sleepwalking, such as opening letters. And the doctor wants to know a little more details, and the gentlewoman says, "Neither to you nor anyone, having no witness to confirm my speech," that she doesn't want to tell him what she's been seeing because what she's saying is so terrible. So Lady Macbeth enters, and on line 31, she begins to speak, so she's sleepwalking and sleep talking. And as she speaks, she's trying to wash her hands, and she says, "Out, damned spot, out, I say. 1, 2. Why then 'tis time to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord, fie, a soldier and afeard." All right, so she's trying to wash her blood off her hands, but it won't come off. All right, now obviously there's not really blood on her hands, but in her dream she's imagining this blood. And she says, "Yet who would have thought the old man to have so much blood in him?" And so obviously this old man she's talking about is King Duncan. So right there she admits to the murder of King Duncan. That is, Lady Macbeth does, and the gentlewoman hears this. She continues to say, "The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What will these hands ne'er be clean? No more of that, my lord, no more of that. You mar all with this starting." So then Lady Macbeth also admits to, all right, the killing of the Thane of Fife's wife, who is Lady Macduff. So we see Lady Macbeth quickly admit to this, and the gentlewoman is witnessing all this with the doctor, and they're a little horrified. The doctor says, "What a sigh is there? The heart is sorely charged," meaning the heart is burdened. All right, that the doctor sees a burden in Lady Macbeth. And so the scene continues. She goes on to admit that Banquo's buried. So Lady Macbeth admits to the murder of Duncan, Lady Macduff, and Banquo. And the gentlewoman is witnessing all this and is horrified. All right? So we could add that the gentlewoman is horrified at what she's hearing, that she's fully admitting to the death of all these people. Lady Macbeth ends the scene, kind of, or as she's leaving, says, all right, "What's done cannot be undone." That it's too late. Murder, death, and all these things have already occurred. All right? So Lady Macbeth was sleepwalking. Again, she admits to the murder of Duncan, Lady Macduff, and Banquo, and the gentlewoman is horrified at everything. Lady Macbeth leaves, saying, "What's done cannot be undone." And the doctor comments on how horrifying everything is. And they realize that they should probably report this, but they shouldn't, all right, at the same time, because if they do report this, they probably will be killed. So he says, "I think, but dare not speak." All right? He doesn't want to speak about the events because he knows that he'll probably be killed if he admits to knowing this stuff. So just to indicate on the right hand with this picture, usually Lady Macbeth enters with like a candlelight and she places it and she starts confessing all these things. And so we see Lady Macbeth walking in the nighttime. Act 5, Scene 2 is a very quick scene. So much so that I don't actually write important characters. They're more or less just characters. And there'd be drums and colors, which are flag bearers in the background. And they're saying that we're near Birnam Wood. All this scene is functioning to show is that the war is about to begin. Right? War between Macbeth and Malcolm/Macduff is about to begin. That's the only purpose of this little scene. So, Act 5, Scene 3 is a good time to just kind of go over some literary terms because these scenes are so quick. All right. Remember, a tragic flaw is a flaw within a character that will cause his or her demise. Macbeth's tragic flaw in our story has been ambition, and we might want to add to that greed, and all these things lead to a psychotic breakdown. All right, the tragic hero, who is Macbeth, all right, is a character who has a flaw that will cause his or her downfall. In this case, his, because our tragic hero is Macbeth. So the scene begins, and Macbeth is talking and saying how things are going well and how he's not concerned. Around line 25 and following, he says, "His honor, love, obedience, troops of friends I must not look to have, but in their stead curses, not loud but deep, mouth honor. Breath, which the poor heart would fain deny and dare not." All right. So my question is, why is Macbeth so confident? And of course, he's confident because of the witch's prophecy. Witches' prophecies, really. All right. Two of the prophecies indicate that Macbeth's kind of immortal. All right. The none of woman born shall harm Macbeth, and since it appears that everyone's born of woman, Macbeth has nothing to worry about. Plus, the Great Burnham Wood moving to Dunsinane, trees don't just get up and move. Or at least, that's what we thought. So, we'll have to see how this pans out. It is important to note that at the end, the doctor's kind of left alone on stage, and he has a little aside / a very small soliloquy where he says, "Were I from Dunsinane away and clear, prophet again should hardly draw me here." That not even a prophet that was large could get him to stay at this castle, all right, because there's so much craziness occurring. Act 5, Scene 4 is another super quick scene, all right, and it's here that Malcolm says, "Let every soldier hew him down a bow, and bear it before him. Thereby shall we shadow the numbers of our host, and make discovery, ere in report of us." So Malcolm's idea is to take these trees, kind of cut them down, and start walking forward so that they kind of act as a camouflage. And so what it's going to look like, all right, if there was 10 people, maybe it would function as this very good camouflage. But when you have 10,000 soldiers walking forward with basically a tree in their hand, it's going to look like the forest is moving. And so that third prophecy that the witches said about till Burnham Wood moved to Dunsinane Hill, right, that this is going to be occurring. Act 5, Scene 5 begins with Macbeth, and as Macbeth starts the scene and is talking, there's a cry of a woman. It turns out shortly thereafter that that cry is Lady Macbeth. And Satan comes in and says, "The Queen, my lord, is dead." So we find out that Lady Macbeth died. Presumably, we can assume, she committed suicide. So Macbeth has a soliloquy right after he finds out this news. And he says, "She should have died hereafter." Meaning she would have died relatively soon, or would have died eventually. And then he gives this very, very bleak metaphor, where he says, "Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." So, and this is a common convention in Shakespeare's plays, is comparing the actors to actual actors. So he says that life's but a walking shadow, a poor player, an actor who walks about on stage. And the story that's told on stage is told by an idiot. So life is kind of this meandering and stupid kind of thing, and it's full of sound and fury, but in the end, life means nothing. So you get this bleak kind of thought that the world is bleak, the world is sad, that things are just bleak and depressing. And it's kind of really one of the last big moments that we have of Macbeth speaking. So I think that's kind of an interesting thought to kind of leave us on. So it's just one of these disturbing and famous quotes full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So a messenger comes in and he says, "Methought the wood begin to move." And Macbeth immediately starts going crazy. "Liar and slave, you can't say that the forest is moving. Forests don't move." And the messenger assures him, he says, "I say, a moving grove." And Macbeth threatens to kill him, but he wants to go see the forest moving for himself. Act 5, Scene 6 is all of 10 lines long. The only thing that I think is worthy to note is that they have these leafy screens in front of them and they throw them down and they head towards the castle. But what I think is really important is the way that Malcolm talks. Malcolm says, "Worthy Macduff and we." Worthy Macduff and we. And what he probably means is worthy Macduff and I, but what we see is that he's speaking in what's known as the royal we. Alright? When a person's a king or a queen, they speak in plurality. Alright? So we see him kind of assuming the role of king early on. And so they go to storm the castle. So Act 5, Scene 7, we start with Macbeth, and Macbeth's alone on stage, so we have a soliloquy, and he says, "They have tied me to a stake, I cannot fly, but bear-like I must fight the course. What's he that was not born of woman? Such a one am I to fear, or none?" So we get the image of bear baiting. Bear baiting was a popular sport where they would tie a bear to a stake and would have dogs attack it, and they would bet. It's a little bit like cockfighting and like roosters kind of attacking each other or something like that. It's a strange sport, obviously not played today. And so Macbeth exits, Macduff enters, they talk about fortune, and the scene kind of ends. It's a very quick, brief scene. But what is important is that a young seaward comes and tries to attack Macbeth. And he says, the young seaward says, thou liest, aberrant tyrant. With my sword I prove the lie thou speakest." And so Macbeth and this young seaward fight each other, and the young seaward is slain. And Macbeth says, "Thou wast born of woman. What swords I smile at. Weapons laugh to scorn, brandished by a man that's of a woman born." So Macbeth reminds us that he feels, and he believes at this point, I think, that he's invincible because everyone is born of woman. So Act 5, Scene 8 begins, and Macbeth is kind of thinking about suicide but decides not to go through with it. In his opening scene, he says, this is line 1 and following, "Why should I play the Roman fool and die on mine own sword, whilst I see lives the gashes do better upon themselves?" So, when we read Julius Caesar next, a lot of the characters end up killing themselves, and they're Roman characters, and it's kind of this ritualistic suicide. And Macbeth says, "Why should I play the Roman fool and die? Why should I kill myself?" And so Macbeth and Macduff start fighting. And Macbeth says, around line 12, he says, "I bear a charmed life, which must not yield to one of woman born." So he reminds us that he can only be killed of woman born. And Macduff laughs and says, to spare thy charm, and let the angel, whom thou still hast served, to tell thee Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped. So, I have this Barnes & Noble Shakespeare with this editor, Jesse Lander, and he describes what this means. He says, a cesarean birth would have been performed by male surgeons as opposed to female midwives, and it would likely have resulted in the death of the mother. Medical experts disagree over whether or not the procedure should be performed upon a living mother. So what we're finding out in this little scene is that Macduff was technically, and very technically with cesarean section, Macduff was born of man, because surgeons at this time would have been men. So we see that, and of course they fight, and sure enough, Macbeth is killed. Macbeth is slain. And that really kind of signifies that our story's over. Alright, Macbeth is slain. All right. He's killed, murdered, kaputs, dead, right, all those things. And so the scene goes on for just a little bit longer, and Macduff leaves the stage and returns with Macbeth's head on a pike. All right, he says, and this is line 54 and following, Hail, King, for so thou art. Behold where stands the usurped, cursed head. All right, so Macduff is holding the head of Macbeth. And then they look at Malcolm, and they all say to Malcolm, all right, Hail, King of Scotland. So Malcolm becomes the new King of Scotland. And Malcolm closes out the play by saying how Macbeth is dead, how he was a tyrant of this dead butcher, he says. All right, and so we shall move on from this terrible moment and go by the grace of grace. All right, which is like kind of like the grace of God. So that ends the story. So one last question before we finish up. What prophecies do not come true? Our story is all about prophecies coming true. And we realize at the end of this that Banquo and Fleance, right, their prophecy doesn't come true. Fleance ran away, and he's never heard of again. And Banquo, well, he's dead. So will Banquo's children become king? Right. There's no Macbeth 2, so I guess we'll never know. All right, but it's something to wonder, like, all right, in the course of the story, all right, will Fleance ever become king? And that we have no answer for. But it's something to think about, all right, and tells you that maybe, all right, our story, which is all about controlling fate, that Macbeth was really controlling his own destiny, and that the witches just said things, that they didn't really prophesize anything, because not all of their prophecies came true. And that completes Macbeth. All right. So that's all 5 acts, all the literary terms. Right. Rewatch the videos to make sure you have a full comprehension of the story. Be sure to download the V-Notes, which go into further depth and discussion of the events and stories that took place. And that should be helpful. So thanks for listening. Likes are good. All right, comments are good. And if there's any questions, feel free to drop me a line or leave a comment.